Who's the boxing show that's knocking out the competition? The kick-ass podcast that make you want to listen. The place where boxing fans and fighters rejoice. Thumbs up for Richie. You're listening to The Fighter's Voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Richard Ortiz of The Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. And today with us in studio, you know what? I got a new name for him. I mean, I don't know if I want to call him post-fight, pre-fight, commentator, ring announcer. I might even call him an evangelist. You know what? We're just going to give him a new name. I'm going to call him by his name, and his name means all the above because the man wears many hats. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ray FLORES to The Fighter's Voice. How you doing, Ray?
I'm doing great. Hey, Rich, thanks so much for that awesome introduction, man. Really appreciate it. It's such an honor to be joining you on your show once again here on The Fighter's Voice.
Man, it's always a pleasure to have you. You know, you take time out, especially to grab that energy during fight week, my man. Ray, let me say this again, brother. It is fight week. Spence, Crawford, it doesn't get any better than that. Both undefeated, both world champions, both considered arguably the best pound for pound fighter in the world. And my man, Ray FLORES, is in the middle of it. First of all, how does it feel? What's the energy like in Las Vegas?
I got to tell you, Rich, and I've been around many. I've been fortunate and blessed to be around many memorable fight weeks. But the energy here on Tuesday, I mean, it was packed. I mean, the crowd here at the MGM Grand for the grand arrivals today was unbelievable. And it's only Tuesday. The energy, the excitement, the anticipation is only going to continue to build. But I felt it. And the crowd really is. And this is just me being brutally honest with you, not because I'm trying to get across a narrative or sell something or whatever, because let's be real. Whether or not you and I are here or not, this fight sells itself. So the crowd is split down the middle. And I feel like that's a microcosm of people's prediction across the board. What a year it's been for boxing, but specifically this fight. I mean, there is no greater fight that you can say is a 50-50 fight than this one. As you mentioned so eloquently, two undefeated champions, two guys who've been, you know, on the top pound for pound list for a while. And now they get an opportunity to go head to head for that mythical pound for pound ranking, and also to be the first ever undisputed welterweight champion in the four belt era. I mean, the names that we've had that have passed through 147 in the four belt era are unbelievable. Hall of Famers. And it's never, ever been unified under the four belt era. Saturday night, that all changes. That just goes to show you what's on the line at T-Mobile Arena between Spence and Crawford.
You know what? I was about to say the four kings, although Hagler never went down to 47s, he's still considered a king himself when it comes to boxing. But you know, the eyebrows are going up. You know, the concern and you know, the curiosity. And I'm talking about the Roberto Durans, the Tommy the Hitman Hearns, the Sugar Ray Leonards of the 147 pounds. They're curious to see, is this where it left off? Are they able to carry on and become possibly that fifth king of 147 pounds?
Well, I think, look, you have to look at it in terms of, I would say you got to give, if we're going to give a fifth king spot, you got to give it to Floyd for what Floyd was able to do and just be purely dominant. But I look at it in terms of eras. You had the four kings that were in the 80s, and then you had, you know, De La Hoya Trinidad in the 90s, early 2000s. Then Floyd took over for over a decade. Yes. And that's just unbelievable. But now Spence and Crawford, they get that opportunity to show the entire world who is the man. What era is this at 147? Because they both have been on polar opposite ends of the spectrum, you know, when it comes to promotional entities, on network entities as well. Now they're both under the same banner with PBC, and they are together and going to go at it. So now we're going to see, is this the Errol Spence era, or is this the Terrence Bud Crawford era? We're going to find out on Saturday night. That's why this fight is so much fun, because one guy is going to show, I'm the man, you're the second guy, I'm the number one. I mean, not to say, you know, piggyback off of what Errol Spence is saying, but we're going to find out who the big fish is on Saturday night.
And you know what? I was about to hit on this, and it kind of reflects on what you just said. Not that it's important. I'm just glad we're here. Who made that fight happen? I remember when Bud was with Top Rank, he wanted it so much to happen. He wanted to end his career with Top Rank, but you know, he needed to make moves on his own. He needed to make himself available to be able to cross the street, so to speak, and look on the other side of the ring and seeing, looking at Errol Spence there. You know what? Nevertheless, they're both under the same banner. They're both going to be underneath the lights together. Before we do get off, I'm going to ask, who do you have and why? And you can go back and forth and give me the do's and the don'ts. But let me tell you this. Looking at both men coming in, is there any hint of okay, I'm leaning towards this because A, or because B, I didn't notice this in the other fighter? What are you grabbing? What are you grasping on to these fighters as they walk in the ring? Do you see anything in their head movement, their eyes, just the way they handle themselves? Let the viewers, the
So,
fans, and the followers know, Ray, because you're right in the mix, my man.
yeah, well, I appreciate that, Rich. And I was in last week. I spent time with Terrence Crawford on Wednesday, Errol Spence last Thursday during training camp, and they were winding down. But them winding down is me amping it up, and top world class prize fighters amping it up on both accounts. For Crawford, he has this. There is something about him that he wants to prove that he is the kingpin at 147. That motivates him. It drives him. He really. I think it's fair to say with Terrence is that he feels like they've been saying we're going to prove the doubters wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is motivation for him. I mean, both guys use different things to fuel them for battle. So those are the differences. The similarities are they're both extremely focused. They're both in unbelievable physical shape. I mean, it is mind-boggling. Number three, their workouts. I'm watching them work out, and Bud Crawford and Spence, and they're just different personality wise, and even how they perform in the ring, it's different. Crawford is very much loading up on power shots and sorry,
No
working
problem.
on drills and everything else. Spence, working with Derek James, getting on the inside, pressure, pressure, pressure. But they're both just chiseled out of granite. So in the ring, they're different, but their mentalities are rather similar. But the things that drive them are totally different. Where I feel like Crawford feels the world has doubted him. Spence is like, look, you've been saying about, hey, you need to fight Crawford. You need to fight Crawford. Well, now I'm going to fight him, and I'm going to beat him, and I'm going to beat him in his own game because, Spence has always prided himself on strap season. He got the IBF belt from Kell Brook, WBC belt from Sean Porter, WBA belt from Yordenis Ugas. And, I actually find humor in it that, he's knocking at Terrence Crawford's door, and Crawford's like, yeah, come with it. So I love it. It's two alpha males, two top quality prize fighters. Not to discount what the fight was, but I truly do believe that this fight is going to be so much more exciting, compelling than that of Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad, because that fight was a bit of a letdown. I mean, from a build up, that was a massive fight with two legends.
Yeah.
But the actual in-ring fight, obviously, you could say what you want about the judges, but it just didn't provide that level of high level drama and combat and toe-to-toe exchanges that we were hoping to see in the lead up to that fight
Turned
with
into
De
a
La Hoya
boxing match.
Trinidad. Yeah, it was. It was just, it was a De La Hoya boxing lesson for about 7 rounds, maybe even 8. And then Trinidad came on with pressure at the end, and then the judges went where they went. I didn't agree with the decision, but that's neither here nor there. This fight, I think, is going to be totally different in the sense that there's so much anticipation behind it. I think that I'm pretty sure the fight is going to exceed expectations because you just have two dominant champions, and they're both different inside the ring. When you ask me about a prediction, since I'm calling the fight, I can't give one. But what I will tell you is I believe, and I told Sean Porter this today during the Grand Rivals, is that I believe with this fight, the winner of this matchup is going to be who can execute their game plan better. And to be frank with you, Rich, here on the Fighter's Voice, is whoever can withstand the other guy's best weapon. Now, with Terrence Crawford, it's no secret. The guy is a phenomenal boxer puncher, but man, does he have, electrifying power. He does.
Yes.
Out of his 39 wins, 30 of them by knockout. Errol Spence is just so relentless and brings so much pressure. So the question for me is, can Errol Spence withstand the firepower and the big punches of Terrence Crawford? For Terrence Crawford, the question is, can he handle the relentless, agonizing, ferocious body attack that Errol Spence is going to bring to him from the moment the bell rings? That is the question heading into this fight. You know what, Rich? I can't wait because we get to find out on Saturday night.
Reflect back on what you said, Ray. One will beat you up, the other would just take you apart. I mean, either or. I mean, it's just, would you rather be taken apart or getting beat up? Crawford beats people up. Spence just takes you apart. He rips your soul right out of your chest. And it's, how I would describe, I've never been in the ring with either one, but if I was to describe something about fighting Spence, what he does, those bad nightmares, Ray, those dreams, and you're trying to run, but you can't. Your legs are zapped, your muscles are zapped, you can't fight back. That's what Spence does to his opponents inside of the ring.
I completely agree.
And on the other hand, those bullies that just take the kids' lunch money. Well, some of the times those kids have an older brother. And when that older brother runs into that bully, what does he do, Ray? He beats him up. And that's what Bud Crawford does. So we're in for fireworks, my man. I hope you like that analogy on both fighters.
No, hey, I loved it. And you know what, too, this is the absolute truth, Rich, is that, with this particular fight, they're both going to, in my opinion, they're both going to have to withstand punishment. This is not one of those fights. I mean, Errol told me today it's going to be a blood and guts battle. I truly do believe that even the winner is going to have to deal with their fair share of punishment and pain over the course of the fight. It's one of those fights where going in, it's going to be very physical, high contact, and you're going to have to push your body and your mind and your soul and your spirit to levels that you never thought were imaginable. I mentioned this today. It's that rarefied air, but it's the truth, because these guys are going to really have to push themselves, and they're going to push each other to the brink. Who is going to be able to not crack under pressure and instead break the other man? Again, another reason why this is such a phenomenal fight for boxing.
Both men, I agree with you. Both men have showed class and respect for each other. And I'm wondering, does that all change come the day of the weigh-in? And I know the press and I know the PBC and the powers that be, they're going to let them enjoy that stare down just to give the fans and everybody else just something to view. I don't see anything erupting during this time, but you never know. This is the sport of boxing, and I can't pick or choose to say who's going to cross the line on who, because there is no mental edge. There is no physical edge. It's just one man 100% bringing it and his opponent 100% bringing it. And what do you get when you got a head-on collision? A ruckus.
Yeah, I really hope that I do believe that they're going to, they're very classy fighters. They're gentlemen, and they respect each other. There's a mutual respect. And when the bell rings, they're going to have to go and handle business. I mean, it really is business. And they're both high-level prize fighters and competitors, but they're classy guys. There are similarities to them. They're both family men. They both had to go overseas to the UK to capture their first world title. Spence against Kell Brook in 2017. Crawford had to go and beat Ricky Burns in Scotland, if I'm correct. And they both have been racking up wins, and whenever they have had victories, the public and the press will ask the winning fighter about the other guy. And now all of those questions will be answered, but they no longer have to say, what if, or are you going to fight him? Are you going to do this? No, they are going to fight. They are going to compete. And we are going to see history being made on Saturday night when 4 belts are given to the kingpin of the welterweight division. I really do wish, and I know that people, whatever, when I meant the kingpin, I wish that there was a crown there at ringside to present to the winning fighter, because they are going to be the kingpin of the welterweight division, one of the most glamorous divisions that we've had in boxing history. So I'm really pumped about that.
Well, I remember the UFC did Dana White when Diaz fought my man there.
Masvidal,
Yes, and actually, what do they call it? The bad motherfucker
the
belt.
BMF title.
We all know who's going to be the bad motherfucker once their hand is raised, and I'm just keeping it 100. The viewers out there
Yep.
listening, you've heard that word before. You know what? Going into this fight, let's also talk about the co-main event. You got Cruz and Giovanni Cabrera, undefeated, kind of awkward, kind of reminds me somewhat moves around like a modern day Michael Spinks a little bit. And then you got Cruz, it just gets underneath the jab and goes to work. What do you think about this matchup? How long do you see this fight lasting, and what does it do for the winner?
I think it's a terrific fight because for Cruz, he's coming off of two impressive knockout victories since that loss is to Gervonta Davis back in December of 2021,
which was very competitive.
But yeah, it was, and you know what? It kind of made Isaac Cruz a cult-like figure in Mexico and amongst boxing fans in general, because he can't go walking around anywhere during fight week without being hounded by fans and by the public. So I like that. He literally went. I remember when Manny Pacquiao fought Yordenis Ugas in August of 21, and we were here. And when I went ahead and saw Isaac Cruz, he was there because he's under Manny Pacquiao Promotions.
Yeah, with
and
Sean
Isaac Cruz
Gibbons,
kind of
yes.
came in. He came in during fight week in August of 21 and was walking around in obscurity, relative obscurity. And that was about, in the summertime before he fought. He would fight Gervonta Davis in December of that year. After that, he now is hounded, and people want to come up to him to talk to him, photos, autographs, the whole deal, selfies. So that's how much his life has changed. But he's followed it up with two impressive knockout victories. But now he has a guy in Giovanni Cabrera who's 21-0, 7 knockouts, trained under the guidance of the Hall of Fame trainer, Freddie Roach. And Gio believes in himself. And Gio feels like, I've had the hard road. I wasn't built up into this mythical figure because of a loss that I had. And I was on stage with them today, Rich, during the Grand Arrivals, and their stare down, I had to get in there and tell them to face out to the media because they were not looking away from each other. That was, I kind of got in the middle a little bit, and they were very gracious to allow me to move along the process. But I didn't like getting in the middle of that, bro. You know what I mean? Because they were staring darts into each other. There was animosity up there, but it's good animosity. It's not like, it's not classless animosity. It's, hey, if they win, the winner of this fight is going to be guaranteed a world title shot because it's for the WBA and WBC lightweight title eliminator. So this is a significant fight. The winner of this fight punches the ticket. It's like having remember the moment it's showing me my age, but the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Love it.
This is the Willy Wonka golden ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Love it.
So yeah, I'm amped up about that fight.
You're absolutely right. I was just showing my girl last night. Cruz put up a post. It was up maybe an hour. Already 26,000 likes, as opposed to before. Yeah, I know. I remember. He was another face in the crowd, and he stepped up with the opportunity. His fanfare has to the roof, and with Giovanni, I mean, the man just walks around with complete confidence, very articulate when you talk to him. Kind of reminds me from a distance, John Leguizamo. I always give him a hard time whenever I see him. Very nice guy, believes in himself, and he knows what's at stake here. He knows a victory would, propel him to a title shot and possibly a household name. I was about to ask you, what was the face-off like, if in fact they had one, but you answered that crisp and clear. The fans, what did they get out of it today? I mean, did they get any pictures with the fans? Did any of them mingle with the fans? I know they got to go from A to B, but fans, man, are the ones who make this event, who support the event. And I just wanted to see how they handled stardom, so to speak.
Yeah, so I do know that when I was introducing Isaac Cruz, that it took him a little while to get to the stage because he was trying to take photos with everybody and et cetera, et cetera. The guys are very generous with their time because, and I mentioned, and I'll tell you, because what I love about our sport is that if you're you get so much access even as a fan to be within arm's length. Like maybe you may not be able to personally meet Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, but you're going to be standing 10 feet away from him. You're going to be able to be a part of his journey along the way to the ring on Saturday. What I mean by that is by coming to the Grand Arrivals, stopping off at the media workouts tomorrow that's open to the public, Friday, the weigh-in at T-Mobile Arena, and then ultimately Saturday. But if you are a fan of, let's say, the Los Angeles Lakers, you can't go as a fan and watch the Lakers practice prior to a big game that they have in the playoffs. If you're I'm a diehard Chicago Bears fan, I can't go and be within arm's length of Justin Fields prior to a big Sunday matchup against the Green Bay Packers. In boxing, it's the opposite. You get so much accessibility. You get to see the guys up close. And because many times people go, well, how tall are they, or how do they look physically, this and that. Even if you go and you have good seats at a pro sports game, you really can't tell. Here you can, because they're literally 5 feet away from you, because you're at the Grand Arrivals, or you're at the media workouts, or you got really good seats for the weigh-in that's open to the public, and first come, first serve. That's what's great about our sport. This is an awesome week.
And I'm glad the way it works out that it is open to the public, and the fans get to have that fantasy of maybe I get to meet him the next day, because I know I got to see him, and I'm rooting for him now because he looked at me in the eyes, or I got to see him pass by, and they take that with them. A lot of stuff that people may take for granted, these fans, they take that with them, and you know what? They give them the title of stardom, because to them, they are that mega star. To them, they are that rock star. They are that undefeated champion. And, I can go on and on about this. Ray, I wanted to ask you this. Since your career has just blossomed and blew up, man, what's it like when Ray Flores receives a call? I mean, you're at a stage now in your career where you say, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm booked. I can't take that one, but thank you. Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, coming up as a commentator, coming up as a ring announcer, wearing different hats, think that you would be in the position that you are today?
I mean, it's one of those things that it was always a goal, and it was always a thing about, no matter what you get into in life, you should always have self-belief. If you don't have self-belief and confidence in your own ability, then you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. I love this business. I love combat sports. I think there is nothing, I have this sense of romanticism behind it, because to me, there is nothing more um, special athletically than when the bell rings and two fighters go at it, whether it be in the world of boxing or the world of MMA or whatever combat sport it might be. It's just hand-to-hand combat, the best man or the best woman against each other, just going at it. Who's going to be able to pose their will on the other? And over the course of a fight, you get to see this journey, you get to see this story unfold before your very eyes. And the truly special fights bring out these magical moments. And for me, I always have had such a respect for it. I've always admired prize fighters, but I've also studied, and I've been fortunate to be around so many amazing people in my career that have given me incredible opportunities. People like, Tom Brown of TGB Promotions, Brittany Goosen Brown, Premier Boxing Champions, and working with the entire team there. Prior to that, working with Artie Palullo at Banner Promotions, and Matt Rowland and Mark Abrams. And, also, I did stuff way back in the early part of my career on solo boxeo with Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya in that entire crew, and starting off in Chicago with Bobby Hitz. So I've been really fortunate, but along the ways is I've been able to have great opportunities. And when you get an opportunity, just like a fighter, you have to make the most of it, because you hope it can continue and multiply and just, continue, and I've been really fortunate. I've been on the road at least once a week for the past 6 months. And it just continues, and I love it, and it's time away from home. But you know what? I got the greatest job in the world. I don't take it for granted. I'm a blessed man, and I count my blessings every day. But do I want more? Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're not in this business to want to be the best, and I'm not, I have so much respect for my contemporaries, but also I compete with myself, and I want to be the best version of myself. So that is how I approach my performance and my focus. And also the fighters deserve it more than anything. I mean, I'm on the fighter's voice. The fighters deserve the best performance from commentators. You have to be prepared. I think you have to look incredible. You have to look you have to be in shape. You have to look and have whether you're a man, a nice suit, or if you're a woman, a nice dress, or whatever attire you decide to wear. You have to look incredible because the event deserves it. The fighters deserve it. That's why I'm here in the fighter's voice, because the fighters deserve to hear what's going on, man.
Absolutely, man. You heard it from one of the best, if not the best in the world. Ray, I got to ask you this. Who influences you today? Not yesterday, because, well, you know what? You can let me know who interviewed you yesterday. But today, right
Yeah.
now, who inspires you?
I mean, so from a business standpoint, combat sports, the guys that inspired me was number one is Michael Buffer, because there is no cooler dude on the planet than Michael Buffer. That guy is the greatest ring announcer of all time. He transformed our business, and he really is like, if James Bond was a real person, it would be Michael Buffer. Like he's literally like he oozes cool, and he loves boxing, and he has an incredible voice, and he just has such a level of class and elegance about him. I mean, he really is just a wonderful representation for what it is to be a combat sports announcer. From a play-by-play standpoint, uh, to me, nobody did it better than Jim Lampley,
I agree.
and he's ridden off into the sunset. He's the Hall of Famer, and him, leaving the sport has been able to, I've been able to have opportunities, and it has given the younger generation the opportunity to take over. Here's the thing, Rich, and this is the absolute truth. I believe that as a sport, as combat sports, we need to get younger from a media standpoint, commentator wise, ring announcer wise. No disrespect to the older generation, but the older generation had their time. They had, they were able, the older generation, when they came up, they gave them the ball and said, here, we've created our legacy. Here's the ball, take it. The older generation needs to do that now with the younger generation, because we need to get younger, because as a whole, combat sports is getting younger, because now the younger generation is ready to have their eras. I mentioned about how the winner of Spence and Crawford is going to have their eras and their time. I feel like the same way needs to happen with commentator standpoint. So Lampley certainly has inspired me, because how passionate he was, his focus and his ability to storytell was unbelievable.
I was about
You
to
could
say that
tell.
exactly.
I mean, there was nobody better than him to be able to elicit an emotional reaction. What I learned by watching Jim
Very
Lampley,
emotional
even
man.
as early as I was 4 or 5, is that he found a way to give you a fighter's story, but allow you, because anybody can be like, a guy's 10-0, 20-0, whatever, but he made you care about not only the fighter but the person. He told you about the person, and then he told you about the fighter, because everyone always thinks that fighters, men or women, that they're robots or machines. It's like, no, they are a person first, they are a fighter second. And Lampley told you about the person first, and then about the fighter second. And then he tied it all in together over the course of a championship fight. That was amazing. So Buffer, Lampley, and then right now, my everyday life, I mean, the people that inspire me, my father inspires me. My mom inspires me. My brother Miguel inspires me. That's who inspire me when it comes to my everyday life, because they're the ones who not only push me, but my father's still a school teacher and been working and teaching junior high kids since for almost 40 years. You know, my brother will go and do real estate stuff and come to an event and then go back and do real estate stuff. I mean, what my mom's been able to do, unbelievable. So, you know, my family inspires me currently.
Well, there you go, man. That's great inspiration. You know, I wanted to say the same thing about the storytelling, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, thank you.
Nobody closes better than Jim Lampley. At the very end, I miss HBO Boxing After Dark. I miss it to this day. I keep thinking, well, maybe they'll come back, but it's not going to be the same crew there. But Jim Lampley in closing, I mean, he would just completely close. And if they had that hashtag back then, drop the mic, that's him all day long.
Hey, do you remember his call when De La Hoya finished off? One of my favorite calls of Jim Lampley that I remember him as a young student, even in early high school, is when De La Hoya finished off Fernando Vargas, and there was like if you watch it, there's like a minute crescendo, and Lampley built up to it. Yes. And one of his final lines was, if Oscar De La Hoya can beat Fernando Vargas, it would be the most satisfying victory in his career. And then 3 or 4 seconds later, he did it. And then Lampley just gave it. It was just, oh my goodness, it was poetic. So when guys like that inspired me and literally set the bar that high, because Buffer and Lampley, the two greatest of all time, they set the bar so high for us. It's up to me and guys like me and girls that I work with, whether like Christina Poncher and Cynthia Conti, and, we'll really work with a lot of talented people on camera. It's up to us to try to get close to that. Well, we never will get close to that, because that's impossible. It's like saying, I'm going to be better than Michael Jordan. It ain't happening. I'm sorry to tell you. But you know what? It's okay to be a distant number two, because those two guys, Buffer and Lampley, they are number one, and then there's going to be a distant number two.
I agree with you. I'm not sure who said it. Might have been Larry Merchant during the telecast. It makes Cinderella look like a sad story.
Yeah, you're right.
I remember one of those using it, and it just it went on and on. And one of Larry Merchant's. I mean, I was just talking about this one just yesterday. I remember he said, I forgot the opponent it was, and he called this opponent Camp Crack, because
oh wow,
yeah, because one of the fighters, that he was struggling through that. Merchant didn't care. I mean, he didn't care. And I thought meeting him, I'm going, man, this guy's going to be a jerk. He was one of the nicest guys that I've ever met. Talked to us all day when I was in my young 20s, when I was writing for a Tribune. Met him, very nice guy. I love his sayings, and I even love when they would go to the score and they go, Jim, after they would say the score,
yeah,
like,
course,
back to you. And I miss those days, man, of HBO and After Dark. I think it was Barrera who opened it up with After Dark, or Kenny McKinney. Yep. It was in it Kenny McKinney?
Yep. Yeah, it was Marco Antonio Barrera and Kennedy McKinney.
Yeah, Kennedy McKinney. Yes, exactly. Oh, your boxing history. Of course you do.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I grew up watching, there was nothing like HBO boxing, but with that, it does open the door to the younger generation. And it's like they had their time, and the bar was set so high, man. But yeah, I really pride myself on saying, you know what, let's allow what those guys were able to do, and they took it to one level. Now it's up to us to take the ball and to further that. And then it's up to the younger generation behind us to be able to keep furthering the sport. As long as we're moving forward collectively, I think we're in great shape.
Hey, Ray, you know what? I got to let you get going, man. I appreciate your time, giving us the insight, letting us vibe off your energy. I've always called you the Eminem of commentating, because you hit every syllable, my man. And keep up the good work, man. When it's all said and done, before you leave this weekend, when I see you up there, man, we got to have that cold beer we talked about.
You know it, man. Hey, I can't wait to see you tomorrow, and off we go with Fight Week. I'm glad that the Fighter's Voice is going to be around, because you're great for the sport, wonderful for the fans, and you know what? Who doesn't love your knowledge, and most importantly, your passion, man? I mean, it comes across, and thumbs up for Richie as always, my man. And I will certainly see you over the next couple of days, my friend.
I'll text you when I'm in town, my man, and I'll have a good evening.
Sounds good, bro.
And let us
All
know if there's some breaking news.
I'll let you know, bro. Have a good one.
All right. I want to thank our guest, Ray Flores, the one and only Ray Flores. The man wears many hats. He's in Vegas right now. And the man gives you his insight. And as always, I'm your host, Richard Ortiz of The Fighter's Voice, and it's a wrap.
Hey, fight fans, it's not goodbye, but until next week. Remember, it's always voiceography at its finest. So on behalf of Richard Ortiz, the special guests, and all the crew, saying hasta luego, babies. And always, thanks for listening.